I don't think it's a hot take to say that the MonsterVerse has come a long way. With that really meaning, it's not even close to the same tone of the Gareth Edwards 2014 Godzilla film that kicked off this universe as we know it. In fact, they abandoned that tone almost immediately when they put out their second installment in the franchise, Kong Skull Island, which is a highly underrated film, especially when it comes to its direction. This film is gorgeous. But right away, this film is more out there and is completely okay with having fun and getting weird, which the next films would continue to follow. Now, Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire might just be one of the craziest big budget films I've ever seen. It really felt like the writers got together with the director and hotboxed in the writer's room and just said yes to every idea that came out of someone's mouth. In fact, I'm so curious to see what they said no to, because the movie unapologetically goes for the most absurd concepts and ideas that almost makes it feel like Godzilla 2014 takes place in an entirely different universe and continuity. And I'm here to say, it fucking works. I adore Gareth Edwards' Godzilla film, and on an actual film lover's perspective, you can make the argument that it is the best one in the series, and I wouldn't blame you for saying that. But I can't lie and say that I honestly think about rewatching the other films in this franchise so much more than the first. And if the last two Godzilla Kong crossover movies were in the tone of Edwards' original film, I don't think these movies would have actually been satisfying to watch. At the end of the day, it's a ridiculous concept, a giant ape and a giant dinosaur fighting each other, so you should lean into the absurdity. Now, in regards to Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, this movie has some really dumbass shit, but also has the same, if not more, really smart and creative things that are thrown at the screen. And for me, that's why I can forgive the absurdity and honestly enjoy it. Mainly because you can tell there is actual care for what we are looking at. It doesn't just feel like CGI noise. You can tell there was a lot of time and thought put into the world building of Hollow Earth, the way monsters communicate with each other, the visuals, and of course, the actual fight scenes. For as long as I've been alive, a whole 21 years, all I've heard is the complaint about human characters taking up the majority of the screen time for these types of films. Whether it be the Transformers movies or Jurassic Park movies, where the audience wants to see more of these non-human characters, but because they're so expensive to produce, they have to shove boring human characters into the plot. And it has been the consistent criticism of the MonsterVerse. And folks, I am finally happy to say that this film, Adam Wingard, my new hero, has made a movie where the humans are not the main characters and take a ginormous back seat. Kong, a giant CGI ape, was the main character from start to finish. I can guarantee he has more screen time than all the human characters combined. And another praise I have when it comes to the human side of things is that they minimize the amount of human characters there are. For whatever reason, there's usually a giant cast of characters and there are so many people to keep track of. This time, it's 4 main humans, that's it. And Brian Tyler Henry and Dan Stevens knew what type of movie they were in and just let loose in the best way possible. And when they popped back up, it didn't feel like a chore, and I was actually excited to see them, especially Dan Stevens' character. Then there was Rebecca Hall and the little girl she adopts, played by Kaylee Huddle. They had something that I might dare say was a genuinely sweet relationship that I cared enough about. Now, this movie has the lowest budget in the entire MonsterVerse with a $135 million budget, and you wouldn't be able to tell because this film looks stunning, especially compared to most blockbusters these days, where it's almost expected that we will be subjected to bad CGI in Hollywood films now. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because it made me pissed off when I found out. Why, you might ask? Well, Godzilla 2014 had a $160 million budget. Skull Island, $185 million. King of the Monsters, $170. Godzilla vs. Kong, a possible $200 million budget. These films all had way bigger budgets and somehow still felt the need to shove human characters into the majority of the runtime. And this movie proved with a smaller budget that they can make CGI characters be the main character for the majority of the film, which means this entire time we could have been actually having that, and all this, oh, we don't have the budget, yeah, that's bullshit. bullshit. So hopefully this shows Hollywood it's possible. Now, to move away from the human side of things, I want to focus on the insane crack fuel aspects of this movie, because it really was like watching a kid play with action figures on screen, and that's a wholehearted compliment. So I'm gonna list all of the craziest shit I can remember from this movie, and then I'll give it a yay or a nay. Why? Because I can. Scar King having a skeleton whip that has a magic crystal dagger that controls an ancient ice-breathing titan? Bad ass. Kong gets a root canal by Dan Stevens? Fucking epic! Godzilla taking a nap in the Roman Colosseum. Not once, but twice. You go, boy. This is so stupid. Kong rips a giant wolf in half, is covered in its blood, then goes to take a shower in his own private waterfall. God damn, I love it. Godzilla goes on a murder spree and kills another titan, then goes into its house and absorbs its energy to evolve and turn pink. I honestly didn't get it, but I loved watching it. Kong gets frostbite, then has a giant cast that gets airdropped from nowhere, placed on his arm, curing his frostbite and giving him extra super strength with rocket boosters. Do I even need to say more? Godzilla and Kong have another fight, and Godzilla straight up suplexes Kong. We going WWE Raw now. Jai, the adopted girl from Skull Island, starts having visions of the future, gains telepathic powers, becomes a prophesized chosen one to help stop the end of the world, and becomes Jesus Christ. She resurrects Mothra from the fucking dead and now can communicate with her. In every scene after that, she is shown in golden light. This honestly just made me laugh really hard, so for that, we gonna give it a pass. And this movie has hands down the funniest scene in a movie this year so far, and I don't think anything else will top it. When Kong meets this little ape named Zuko and does this to him. And then Kong and Godzilla finally team up after a pep talk from Mothra and jump into a portal to fight Scar King, who is riding Shimu with his skeleton whip with none other than an army of apes behind him. Then Kong tries to one-up him, then jumps onto Godzilla and rides him. Then they all jump at each other and it's all in slow-mo, and the four of them are about to punch each other in the fucking face, and then gravity stops because there's a secret society of people living in Hollow Earth, and they add this liquid to this other liquid, and then for some reason it causes these giant crystals to crash. Then everybody's floating around, and Godzilla's doing backflips, and Kong is boxing other monkeys. Mothra's flying around shooting webs. The baby Kong straight up kills like 4 motherfuckers. Then Dan Stevens wrangles up these pterodactyl birds that shoot electricity, and they begin to shoot lightning at Scar King, and then Scar King, Shimu, Godzilla, and Kong, they all fall into a portal, landing them in fucking Brazil. But Kong dropped his axe, but don't worry. Baby Zuko grabs it, jumps through the portal, throws the axe at the crystal that Scar King was using to control Shimu, and shatters it. Then Shimu teams up with Kong, Godzilla, and Zuko, and they start beating the living fuck out of Scar King. But then Scar King grabs Zuko, and Kong ain't having it, so he runs over there, grabs Scar King, holds him, and then Shimu freezes him, and then Kong gives the final fatality when he slams Scar King on the ground, shattering him into a gazillion pieces. Kong goes back to Hollow Earth, riding Shimu with Zuko at his side, and becomes the new king of the apes. This movie just has so much goddamn testosterone. Fuck! Hell yeah! So obviously I had a blast with this movie. But with that said, it had me thinking, how long can this universe last? Even as someone who is a fan of this movie, the second act dragged, and the stupid stuff was really stupid. I just don't know how much longer they can keep trying to outdo themselves with the crazy ideas until the audience grows bored. These MonsterVerse movies have definitely followed the original Toho films, in regards that the first Godzilla movie is ultra serious and dramatic, then progressively gets more insane and weird as the series goes on. And that's proven successful for 69 years, so obviously who am I to be talking? I do think they need a plan going forward now though, because the plan was 2 Godzilla films, a Kong solo movie, and then Godzilla vs. Kong. That's it. This one kinda just happened. And if they want to continue going forward, they have to have some sense of an idea of where the universe is going. And I think that's where the Monarch show comes in. First off, I loved the show a lot, and I think it can go on for another season or two. And I think it's the perfect balance of serious and weird. And the only MonsterVerse project where I cared about the characters, and proves, just like Godzilla -1, that you can have good human stories thrown into these types of projects. Anyways, you can feel how inspired it was from Edward's 2014 tone, and as the series progressed, it slowly became what the MonsterVerse is now. And I thought they did a flawless job showcasing that. And in all honesty, I think the universe should maybe start recorrecting a bit back to the Edwards tone. Do what Toho has done, they make a string of batshit crazy movies, then do a tone reset, make something a bit more serious and dramatic, then go back to the absurdity. And I think Monarch can be that balance that the universe needs. So Warner Brothers, Legendary, and Toho, sit back, relax, and let me help you out for a second. And I expect a check coming in if you take my idea. And maybe even an executive producer's credit. Thank you very much. Do one more Godzilla movie and make it a bit more serious. Not 2014 serious, but maybe a little bit more serious than King of the Monsters. Then do one more Kong movie and I dare you, I fucking dare you, to make it an hour and a half and not have any human characters and set the entire thing in Hollow Earth where Kong is trying to create his own kingdom, because I want him to actually become a legitimate king of the apes, and make it a journey where he's trying to find self-peace and help not only his people but all of Hollow Earth. But here comes the big one. Keep using the Monarch show to fill in the gaps of the movies and add commentary to the universe while dissecting the state of the world through the human characters. And use all these projects to slowly build up to another threat. And do what you did in this one and make it an original villain. But make sure they get introduced in the beginning of the movie and not in the middle where then you have to rush everything. And then BAM! End your universe on a high note. But are they gonna listen to some stupid little YouTuber like me? Nah. But that's just my 2 cents.